Hi, I'm Dr. Joshua Walker. I'm Senior Vice President here at APCO Worldwide. Here are the 3 things to watch for this week at the UN as it finally comes to a conclusion. It's been an exciting week. We've seen President Trump talk about Rocket Man, slap the right people and hug the right people, as his UN ambassador said. We also saw Prime Minister Abe talk about the liberal international order for the Japanese, but it wasn't just what was said, talking about North Korea, the countering extremism, and also talking about Security Council reform. It was what was not said. So the number 2 point to watch for was what was not said and who was not there. It was very interesting to watch that many of the BRIC leaders, we had the Russian president that didn't come, the Chinese president didn't come, and even Prime Minister Modi, who normally makes an appearance from India, did not come. So in some ways, that forum and that regional gathering seems to be catching steam and becoming even more powerful and important than the UN summit. And what was not talked about often were the Rohingya Muslims that only the Muslim community leaders talked about. We didn't see much in terms of the Arab-Israeli conflict. We saw a lot on Iran, but we didn't see as much on Iraq and other areas. Given what's coming up next week with the Kurdistan referendum, there's a lot of areas that could have been talked about. They weren't talked about. Does that mean that the UN is becoming less relevant, or does that simply mean that people decided to have bilateral meetings on the side? The final thing to think about is what's next. What comes after the UN? Obviously, the UN continues to do its work in the form of the UN Security Council. A lot of what was discussed on North Korea will continue to be on the plate, but also we'll begin to shift to the kind of focus on the finance meetings with IMF and World Bank. Also, the private sector engagement. Whether it was the Bloomberg Summit, whether it was the Concordia Summit, or whether it was the Global Citizen Summit, the private sector and its CEOs were all here in New York and focusing on what was next. The question is, will they have real impact? Were they listened to? And I think we have to wait and see how the UN Summit continues to affect us and where we are a week, maybe a year from now.